Yo. Can't pass this. Can't pass this. You can't pass this. And we're here with the next episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fray, a very important news show where we talk about Syria and all sorts of stuff like that. My name is Derry. We are 2 weeks removed from NCR. We're going to talk a little bit about that PS3 later on in the show. We are also going to talk about Injustice, but first, let me get around to introducing our illustrious panel. All returning faces, all returning favorites. First up, I never thought I would say this and not be holding back laughter. I have to give this guy a lot of respect. He did an amazing job at NCR. He was one of the big reasons why the stream was as successful as it was. He worked his ass off, especially on Friday and Saturday. Please, everyone at home, give a round of applause. Twitter.com/HanzoGonzo. It's Hanzo Gonzo.
Thank you. Fuck Hezbollah.
And then the real Hanzo is back. I was going to make a joke about how it's Bizarro Hanzo because you did such a good job, but the real one is back. I saw him at NCR very briefly. It was good to see him again. I saw him interviewing Neo after Marvel vs. Capcom was concluded. He was on that grind even at then, working with GameSpot and doing his thing. It's twitter.com/Gutex. Ryan Gutierrez, hello and welcome back.
Hey, Derry. Thanks for having me back. We sat and chilled. We had a beer.
We did. It was nice. It was good to talk to you. I owe you one, by the way. The other Ryan that's been on this program before, also a returning favorite, also a guy I got to hang out with some at NCR and talk to, and it was nice. Twitter.com/FubarDuck. It's Arcade UFO's own Ryan Harvey, a.k.a. FubarDuck. Hello.
Good evening, gentlemen.
And then last but not least, my broadcast partner for this, the last 5 NCRs, it's twitter.com/Magus1234. He was dapper on screen, professional, did a great job, Magus1234.
What's going on?
What's going on? Also, everybody at home, if you haven't, please make sure that you follow our producer, Chris Seglia, on Twitter at twitter.com/ChrisSeg. Make sure you follow all the guys who did a good job this weekend in production booth, twitter.com/Offcast/Team Spooky /Harrison SBA, Hanzo Gonzo, and Chris. All those guys did an amazing job. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But first, this was NCR 11. We're about 2 weeks removed now. Infiltration came to the tournament. The other compelling story, along with ChrisG, but Infiltration showed up. It was the first, I think, Street Fighter Cross Tekken major that he's entered. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but the first 2013 version of Street Fighter Cross Tekken major that he's entered. It was his first major North American.
Didn't he
Final round.
Final round. Okay, I couldn't remember if he was at final round or not. It was the second one.
Yeah.
But he ended up winning both the Street Fighter games at NCR on Sunday, Street Fighter Cross Tekken and Street Fighter 4. My first question is going to go out to Magus, and that is, Magus, why is Daigo ducking Infiltration so hard?
I think he wants to save that shit for Nationals, man. I don't think he wants to, get beat and maybe lose his morale before Evo.
But you would agree that Daigo is ducking Infiltration.
Oh, he's ducking for sure. I mean, he had some Nico, handshake and smile at people gig, and he turned NCR down for that. And he's always at NCR, so it was just kind of,
you guys don't think he got paid for that? You guys don't think that he got
what, 1,200? I'm just saying, he could have won. He could have won a lot more at NCR.
I disagree. I think they paid him well enough for him to just stay home, because why risk coming out to get blown up by Infiltration when you can just stay home and make several $1,000s for just chilling?
Well, no, I agree, but he's ducking him. He's ducking him. That's what that is.
I don't know if that counts as ducking him, dude. That's just economics.
Well, no, because he agreed to be to come to NCR. They had announced him. His own handlers had announced that he was going to be there. They announced it via, I think, Mad Cat's social media channels announced that he was coming to NCR, and then a couple.
Yeah, but don't you think that that means that he wasn't ducking him? I mean, he knew Infiltration would be there. I think he just got a better offer.
Maybe he got cold feet at the last second, or maybe he's just a loose cannon cop. Markman can't even control him.
And I have something else to say regarding that too. Momochi, of course, attended NCR this year. Momochi was the only Japanese competitor that traveled to NCR this year, and Daigo was supposed to go with him. So Daigo's decision not go also sort of screwed over Momochi, because he had to sort of stick it out by himself, and he depended on me and one of the other Japanese speakers there to help out and stuff.
He did fairly well in the tournament. Did he have a good time?
Yeah, he seemed to have a great time. He did well in the tournament, only losing to Infiltration and Cross Tekken. We ate some delicious Korean food together, and yeah, he's a class act as always.
He's looking really sharp. I was really impressed with his Street Fighter play, especially, but also I thought he looked. I honestly thought maybe he would have a chance to beat Infiltration and Cross Tekken. He looked even better than he looked at Street Fighter 25.
Yeah, I definitely got the impression that he was practicing a lot of Cross Tekken. His game was very refined.
Right on. And then the other big story coming out of NCR, it's just ChrisG is the story at this point. A lot of people were wondering if Chris was going to win Marvel, which of course he did, but not without a fair amount of controversy. And we'll talk about that in a second. But first, first question to Hanzo Gonzo. This weekend or last weekend, we saw a lot of really interesting little glitches in the Matrix where things were happening that weren't necessarily with the program, like LLND's Shenko making it a little less easy for Virgils. We saw Ramasama playing a character that a lot of people said should be abandoned after Vanilla Marvel was out. He got all the way to winners finals with Hager. Kane Blue River's Hulk at this point is so strong that it caused a former world champion to try and fail to counterpick him. And we had Senior Taxi with the synergy between Chris Redfield and Dante beat the best in the world. Seeing those things, does that make you excited at all for the future of the metagame of this game? And does it make you excited for Marvel's future, or are you thinking that maybe we're just doomed to a future of Magneto's, Dooms, Morrigan's, and Virgils?
Well, I think there's going to be plenty of those in the future because people like to dick ride like top players. And you can see it like regionally, like the best player will have like the next couple of best players will play that team usually. And but the people who play unique teams with good synergy, teams that they just enjoy playing, are getting a lot better, more comfortable with the matchups. That's why you keep seeing these like odd trends of like random characters like getting into top 8, top 16. And this game, you can play a weird team and still do well. You have X Factor, you have tons of tools. The other player will probably not be familiar with that matchup as well, so they'll just be doing dumb stuff. That's why I think happened between Senior Taxi and ChrisG, because I watched that match like a couple of times, and that guy was not doing anything really spectacular. He was just shooting Doom, and like ChrisG was just like, "What's happening?" Like he couldn't comprehend it. But I don't know. Norcal was like the wonkiest tournament for a while, actually, results wise.
Magus, we talked about this on the program before about Norcal and how they seem to just refuse to adapt to the changes of the metagame in Marvel, specifically to Mora Doom. And, Magneto Doom does not work against Mora Doom, but yet we seem to be refusing to abandon that team. What is it that you think about? Because it's not just a Norcal problem at this point. Seems like a nationwide problem where people are just sticking with this stuff that obviously doesn't work. And then you have guys like Senior Taxi, who this guy's no offense to this guy, but he's a mid-tier nobody down in SoCal, comes to NCR with the team that's a little less traditional, beats ChrisG.
Yeah, but I mean, you're basically explaining what the issue is in microcosm.
Why are they refusing to back away?
Well, no, but there's no refusal. It's not even an issue because, like, look, when he's in SoCal, he doesn't do shit, and he got, and if you pick a team like that, you're not going to do shit with a bunch of Magnetos and characters like that and zeros. Like, Chris isn't going to do anything versus those characters. Like, it's just not going to happen. So really, they're just people are in NorCal are just playing the odds. And it's like we're not going to run into ChrisG at every local. We're not going to run into ChrisG at every major. So why should I pick a team that, counters Morgadoom when I can't even work on fighting versus Morgadoom because there's no good ones except Chris. So it's like let's just play, teams that are good that we know and have a lot of options. So that's just kind of what's going on. And then it's like, Chris comes and some teams they don't play and they get blown up and it's like, yeah, okay. What can you do? But it's like
Well,
if you play some counter Morg Doom team, or you'll get blown up at locals and you'll never win. So it's just kind of it's a catch-22.
Well, then are we kind of just openly accepting the fact that we're not going to beat Chris because we're not playing? We're playing a team that obviously is not going to beat this. I mean, like you have the other guy who people talk about when they say the best in the world, and that's Filipino Champ playing this team. A bunch of people in NorCal play that team, and obviously is not making any headway whatsoever against Morgadoom. Are we just saying at this point we give up?
It's just too early, like in the game's life to figure that kind of stuff out. So people haven't even tried their teams versus Chris yet. So they don't even know if their teams will do well. We've seen what East Coast does, but that's not necessarily our players. So if you don't even get a chance to actually try it versus those type of teams, how do you know your team's not good versus it or anything? So it's just, like it's really young in the game's lifespan. And at this stage, when you have one team that's so, that is just one player, a lot of people are kind of like throwing around the idea, well, maybe it's just Chris, maybe it's his team, who knows? Do I really want to play Morgan because she's boring as fuck? Like, there's just all kinds of things. So it's just, even when you have people like Justin coming up to me and being like, look, you don't really need to worry about beating Chris right now. Like it's just not going to happen. Like worry about it later. Just try and get your shit tight, And it's like, yeah, that's a good point.
I agree. That's fairly astute. Chris, when he lost to Senior Taxi, he made some rather regrettable choices in the aftermath of that. Got on Twitter and said some things. Gutex, do you feel like at this point, like, is there anything that ChrisG could do or say that would cause his sponsor to drop him, like, at this point?
I mean, you don't really want to test those waters, right? But I think he makes him a lot of money. He's placing well. I mean, I just realized or just found out not too long ago that ChrisG's only 21. So I mean,
the shit I was saying at 21. My goodness.
Right, exactly. I mean, I'm sure when we were
right.
When we were all 21, we all would have gotten dropped from our sponsors.
Well, that's the difference. That's the difference. Is when we were 21, we were just a bunch of kids getting drunk in the arcade. We didn't have sponsorships. This guy has a major sponsorship. He's the most famous Marvel player in the world right now.
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, hey, like just because you say a few things that ruffle a few feathers doesn't mean that the sponsor's like, well, maybe we don't want this guy around. I mean, it'd be different, I think, if like Chris was like a disrespectful player or something. I mean, whatever. Like everybody gets mad because this shit is like more than a game, So, I'm not saying that what he said was right, but I mean, it would take a lot. Clearly, AGE doesn't really mind a little controversy, right?
That's true. These guys seem to have very little in the way of a ceiling or a threshold for this sort of stuff. They just are behind their players 100%, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fubarduck, ChrisG also blamed PlayStation 3 for his loss.
PS3.
For those of you guys that aren't, I mean, I can't imagine many of you wouldn't be, but for those of you guys that aren't aware at home, there are some differences between the PS3 version and the Xbox 360 version of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and they mainly center around some frame lag and input delay type issues. Fubarduck, do you think that it's an acceptable excuse to say at this point in the game that you lost because you played on PS3? I mean, because it's well known that we're all going to be playing, or everyone who plays an Evo qualifier or everyone who plays an Evo is going to be playing on PS3. It's been known for months. We played on it last year. At this point, do you think that's even like, is that acceptable at all?
Well, let me tell you a similar anecdote from, just a few years back, a little game I like to play called Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. So Third Strike was a game that we all played in arcades, and the first two Evos that featured Third Strike featured the arcade version of the game. After that, Evo switched to the PlayStation 2 version of the game, which was better than the Dreamcast version by a long shot, but it wasn't arcade perfect. So, here we were, players of Third Strike in arcades, told, hey, next Evo, come play this shitty, inferior version of the game. And we were like, okay. Of course, a lot of people were opposed to it at first, but the fact of the matter was that we were told, hey, this is the version you're going to play on, practice on it, or don't play in the tournament. And you know what? Some people took the cannons and wizard up on that offer. Pyrolee didn't show up to Evo, right? And he was pretty much one of the most adamant and strongest Third Strike players the US had. Other players like myself practiced on PS2. And I still played in arcade as well, but when I played on PS2 at Evo, I was aware of the differences, and I placed very highly for the game at Evo 3 years in a row. So, I guess my answer is that, I was well aware that there's a superior version of the game, but I knew that we were going to be playing on the PS2 version. So, at the same time, I really feel that ChrisG has no excuse either, because he plays on the 360 version like most of us do. We all know it's the superior version. Fact of the matter is, it's on PS3 at Evo, and everyone knows that. So, and same with NCR and a lot of other events. So you know what? If you're fully aware that it's going to be on that version of the game and you don't practice for it, that's on you.
Yeah, Ryan, I agree with that, but I got to bring up a point, and Saber actually brought it up in the chat, which is shout outs to Saber. But is the fact that the PS3 issue is something you can't prepare for. It's not something you could sit in training mode and play with your friends and be like, okay, now there's lag, so now I'll work on my combo timing. It's just like playing on those random stages in Street Fighter 4 where, my Viper, Seismo Burn Kick Ultra would just get screwed up by the jerky lag, and it's just completely random. You can't figure out when or why. So, I don't know. I mean, it just sucks. But I agree with you, Ryan.
I agree with
Go ahead.
Well, I agree with Magus in that it's really random and you can't really plan for it. I can't unfly because of the lag. You can't really prepare for that ahead of time. But I mean, I've gone from 360 to PS3 from Southtown every week for months and months, and I didn't lose to Win0 because of PS3. I lost because of myself, and he was a better player than me. So it's I don't like seeing that excuse from people saying I lost because of PS3, because you should have just been a better player and adapted. I think adapting is the problem. Maybe play more online.
Here's my take on that. It's that ChrisG points specifically. You mentioned fly on fly, and he was talking about how towards the end of his last match with Senior Taxi, there was a moment where he meant to unfly, and he didn't get it, and he ended up getting bopped by, I think it was Bionic Arm or something like that.
He just got bopped.
Yeah, he got bopped, and that's the thing. That's the thing for me, that when he says, "Oh, PS3," because he also on Twitter, he went to Twitter and said, "This guy is the worst dude I've ever lost to. He shat all over Senior Taxi."
I respect that, though. I respect that.
I don't. Here's the thing. If you
that's the post salty pop off. You got.
Well, I respect it in that sense. But if he's so bad, it shouldn't have been to the point where one unfly is what cost him the match.
Yeah.
Dude, he's being a crybaby, but whatever. He knows he's good. Everybody knows he's good. So when he loses, he's like, "Oh shit, what happened?" It can't be me, right?
Right. And I love to see that sort of thing. That's why I like Marvel, is because people talk about how random Marvel is, but it's really not. The same people win pretty much all the time. But occasionally you see some shit happen and people get their cages rattled.
Like Canada.
Right. And then people just don't know how to handle that. They lose their minds. And like you're saying, Chris was almost in a state of denial. This can't be happening to me right now. This isn't happening. What is that? He couldn't process the reality of what was happening.
See, I think that's what exactly. I just think it was he ran into a team that was kind of new and he wasn't used to playing verse, and it just blew him up, happens to all of us and locals, and he just couldn't process it.
Maybe you should practice more with his local scene.
Yeah, you could play bum, but I mean, those guys, Chris doesn't go out to those kind of locals, so
I don't
know.
It's weird. Stupid.
which is crazy when you think about how good he is. But I mean, how does he do it? I have no idea.
Gutex, from the perspective of a guy who travels a lot and sees a lot of events getting thrown or whatnot, what were your thoughts on NCR as far as the event overall?
I thought that NCR was pretty well run. It was hot as balls upstairs.
God, yes.
But other than that, it was cool. I think the stream was fantastical from what I was able to see from the crowd. I mean, that's where like my eyeballs are, because I mean the thing is like it almost, you have 33,000 people watching online at the same time, and you got like whatever 500 people inside the venue. So at this point, it's kind of almost like the stream is what matters at this point, to an extent, But yeah, I thought NCR was good.
Ryan, was there anybody in Marvel outside of Filipino Champ that you expected to do a little bit better that didn't?
Oh, dude, fucking Kane Blue River, after he had getting into top 8 and winners like that, and then and then losing 2 straight. I was pulling for that guy.
Yeah, I was kind of heartbroken too. I will say I was glad to see Ramasama make it to winners finals. I wanted it to be one of the two of them.
Ramasama is like one of my favorite players, actually. For a long time.
Yeah, that guy's really cool.
You could tell when he was playing, like he was just on a level. He was so good.
I didn't know he was that good. That's weird.
Yeah.
Last time I saw him play, he didn't strike me as like a great player, but he just came to play that day, I guess.
Who I was really glad to see do really well was Neo.
Yeah, Neo's been putting a lot of work at FGTV, traveling up, and even
SoCal.
going to SoCal.
Yeah, he's been putting in work, man.
He's leveled up a lot in a very
time.
short period.
Like the past 3-4 months is just like a different player.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of Neo, Fubar Duck, do you think that what we saw in grand finals at Marvel is sort of a statement that maybe it's time for people to think about putting Gene in the mothballs?
Man, well, I'm not gonna lie. Neo made a really, really great showing, but I am gonna say that I think Ramasama versus ChrisG was the grand finals that most of us wanted to see and sort of deserved.
Yeah, just team composition wise.
Yeah, just team composition. His team was more prepared for Mora Doom, and Neo. Here's the problem, and this is not just Phoenix, but also Magneto Doom, like you said. The thing is, Magneto Doom and Phoenix are both combinations or characters that are so consistent in the lower parts of the tournament. And here's the thing, is getting past those low parts in the tournament is extremely difficult. Because there are a lot of good players, right? So you need something that's consistent enough to get you up to the top. And that's why I think players like, Filipino Champ and a lot of other Mag Doom players and Phoenix players get so far, because you can easily use those characters and those combinations to blow out the bottom levels of the tournament. Get out of your pool, get out of top 64 and get yourself up to top 16. But once you get to that point, when you're playing, really, really, really good players, that's when Phoenix's faults start to show. And that's when, Magneto Doom suddenly isn't the best combination in the game. Suddenly it's Morrigan Doom, right? So, I don't think it's that people need to throw this character away or throw Magneto Doom away or throw Phoenix away. The issue is that I feel like people need two teams. Like you need your team to get yourself out of pools, and then you need your team to beat top players.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
It makes sense. Ramasama said something interesting. Like, I don't know if I agree, but it was interesting to think about Mora Doom and how to beat it. And he said Hagar was kind of like a key component essentially to beating Morgan, because what it does is it forces Morgan players to land without hitting shell kick. So basically they're forced into a mix-up in which, versus any other character, sans maybe Viper, they have to respect shell kick, because it's almost unhittable. Like you just can't hit it. So
that's pretty smart.
Yeah, so basically it was like, okay, if I could force Morgan to block when she lands, that means she's just a normal character now with a really sick, projectile game. But when she could come down from, super jump height or whatever with the shell kick safely, it, completely negates the one little opportunity you usually have in Marvel games versus characters. So that's kind of an interesting thought.
Well, you saw the same thing kind of playing out with Senior Taxi when he was using Jam Session, where he would get
Right. Same
underneath
thing.
her. Right.
And stopping her from, hitting S on the way down. Like you just planting something right under her. And it just worked a little differently with Jam Session. You have to be a little smarter with Jam Session, but same concept.
Hazel Gonzo, you worked the tournament pretty hard. We all did. I think we all kind of got thrashed this year. What are your thoughts on 3-day tournaments outside of Evo at this point?
They're stupid. I hate them so much. Oh my god.
I feel like I'm still sick too. Fuck.
I think Andrew's the only person that ever got sick at NCR, to be honest.
Yeah.
That was we were fortunate there was no outbreak of the plague at NCR this year, but I gotta say personally.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, 3-day tournaments are just dumb. It alienates games. I know you want to try and fit as many games and get more stream time, but you can organize it a little better. I don't know. Maybe drop a couple games that get like 20 entrants and just have them run side tourneys on Saturday. Why would that not be an option? I don't know.
Dude, I would love 2-day tournaments. I would love to stretch Evo to 4 days and cut everything else down to 2.
I think that'd be fine, to be honest.
I kind of agree.
I'm okay with that.
I mean,
I'm also in that camp. That's totally fine.
Well,
Make it so.
The 3-day thing, it had, the collateral damage was that the guys who had to be there all 3 days, the players looked like they had been through a triathlon on Sunday. Everybody looked just beat down. You could see it in Marvel. People were playing hella sloppy because they're half exhausted at that point. All the production staff looked like somebody had just held us down and punched us for 12 rounds. But even on top of that, there was the more direct stuff. Like the Tekken scene just refused to show up because Tekken finals were on Saturday and nobody wanted to come to a 3-day tournament when the grand final for the game wasn't even on the 3rd day. So SoCal did not come, and we had 18 entrants for Tekken Tag 2. It's like,
that's not okay.
Right? That's
like what the hell?
That's bad.
Like Tekken's a very reputable, like skillful, great fighting game with history in NorCal, and we're basically like not doing anything to support it. Like that just sucks, man.
Right, and then they were also upset because, and you could say rightfully so, or you could argue against, like, hey, take the time off. But a lot of these guys have day jobs and they had to travel because pools for Tekken were on Friday. So they were upset about pools for Tekken being on Friday. But then again, like Marvel pools and Street Fighter 4 pools were on Friday. So a lot of people had to deal with this pool situation on Friday. So, I mean, but it's kind of a blow up. You have these 3-day tournaments and they're supposed to make it so that the tournament is more robust or whatever. Like there's more time to do things. But the reality is, point blank, Tekken Tag at NCR sucked balls. And one of the reasons why was because nobody showed up because it was a 3-day tourney.
Yeah, but the other scenes showed up even though we had to deal with similar issues. So I feel like the Tekken community is just entitled.
I don't disagree. I'm not putting I'm not saying it's a justified position because I have friends in Tekken and I don't want to put anybody on blast, but I'm just disappointed all around that happened. Because outside of final round, I would say that the second biggest opportunity for Tekken players to play top Tekken talent would have been at NCR because I was expecting people to come out, but nobody showed up. And that's just like, it's disappointing for me as somebody who likes to watch Tekken. Like, I didn't get to catch any Tekken on stream. I didn't get to see any matches in person because I was so busy. Like, that's a blow up,
So do we try to take games out? Or do we try to remove the number of people competing? Lower the number of people competing?
It's tough.
Just side tournaments on Saturday would be fine for games that have low entrance. Don't feature them on the stream, maybe top 3, if that. What's the problem with that?
Fubar Duck, how would you go about trimming down a 3-day tournament to a 2-day tournament? Considering, by the way, that a lot of the games that we had at NCR are EVO qualifying games and they had to be run.
Well,
Smashed it
my
in one day.
solution is if it were not an Evo qualifying tournament, if it were just a tournament where you could have called the shots and made whatever decisions you wanted. I mean, I would honestly say, cut it down to like 4 games, maybe 5 at the most, and run it over 2 days. The fact that they had to run it as an Evo qualifier was what made it a little bit tricky. And the fact that Evo has, now 9 games this year is making it difficult for all these smaller regional tournaments to organize an event of the caliber necessary to, have a successful event for all, 7 or 8 of those games or whatever that are qualifier games. So, to be honest, I would really like it if our tournament scene reflected the Japanese scene a little bit more, in the sense that the Japanese scene tends to focus on a certain subgenre of fighting games or on a specific game at events. And let me give you a good example. I really, really liked the PDP Mortal Kombat tournament a couple years back. I thought it was just like, sort of a nice refreshment from other types of fighting game events. It was run by a different organization. It was in a super nice venue, and it was for 1 game. So we got to play some Mortal Kombat and enjoy Vegas that weekend. Some of you guys were there, I remember. I know the other Ryan was there, and
I was there.
Yeah, you were. And I really wish that rather than Injustice being tacked on to Evo this year, that Warner Brothers or NetherRealm had just thrown a separate tournament for it. I think that would have been a super, a super swell and ideal situation. But, I feel like the fact that it's going to be an Evo game now is although I thought that Injustice should have been an Evo in the first place, I feel like it's sort of stepping on toes at this point. You're squeezing 9 days or 9 games rather into a 3-day event, and yeah, it would just be nice if we could separate majors, not segregate majors. We could still have tournaments with all the games every now and then, like Evo, but I think we may be reaching the point where it's wiser to have tournaments for.
Dude, whoever's getting those alerts, turn that shit off.
For just like the 3 games or the 4 games, and that's it,
Well, I do need to correct myself. I said that NCR was required to run all the Road to Evo games, but that's not necessarily true. They're the only one who did that, I think. I think East Coast Throwdown isn't running all of them. I know that Winter Brawl did not run all of them, so we may have been the only one that. And maybe you guys might be right. We were just kind of overreaching a little bit, and it didn't have to be. I mean, Smash. The thing is, Smash was over 200 entrants. I never even saw those guys. They were in just like a side.
Yeah, they were just. Yeah, I didn't even see that room. It wasn't even open on Saturday.
Right. Like, I don't even know what happened with that tournament. They apparently had more entrants there than anybody, and I don't even like. So, I mean, as long as we could find a way to efficiently do it like that, where it's there and we find space for it, and it doesn't take away from the overall tournament, like that would be fine with me. But like, did we really need DOA? Like those guys all complained.
No, you get rid of everything and you just run Marvel, and, then and Street Fighter 4, and you let everybody else deal with everything else. That's what you do. Like that's why I always say like when's Marvel Wednesdays? Here in Norcal on FGTV live stream, they do it right.
Wow.
They just do 1 game. That's it. Like like Japanese style. Like come play this game. That's all we're gonna focus on.
That's I think I have to agree there. Hanzo, your thoughts on tournaments that are a little bit more specialized?
I think there's a need for them a little bit regionally. At majors, they shouldn't be. I'm just saying, like, DOA shouldn't have been at fucking NCR. It was added because of some troll poll on the Facebook page, which shouldn't have been taken seriously. Why it was, I have no idea. And, like, they just invited the I don't know, chaos of a 3-day tournament just to have a 3-day tournament, I think.
Tell us how you really feel.
It's fucking stupid. Why was DOA in there? That game offends me. As
Did
a
you
fucking
vote
game.
for DOA? I bet you.
No, I voted for
DOA
Virtual
too.
Fighter.
See, same shit. You don't care.
No, it's not.
Well, parting thought on this, and then we're going to move on to talking about more about Evo. But one of the primary divisions in our community for I don't know, decades now has been, Capcom versus quote unquote anime. And some people say that the reason why that divide exists is because our communities are somewhat segregated. You go to these anime tournaments and they're only interested in playing Blaze Blue, Guilty Gear, Persona, Melty Blood. You go to a more mainstream tournament and they're only interested in playing Capcom games and maybe whatever flavor of the month game has been coming out and people are messing with for the next couple months after it comes out. Fubar Duck, do you feel like if we started doing more segregated tournaments for the sake of organization and timeliness, that would make things even more segregated between our two communities, between anime and Capcom, I guess, if you want to use those terms?
Well, I don't necessarily that, I don't think that segregating the tournaments would make them any worse off than they are now. I mean, I don't really know. There used to be a point where players, like top players, would just enter every game. And that's not really the case anymore. Like, we don't have any more. Even really, like ChrisG is one of the only players that just enters every tournament for games of these things. Players like Justin used to do that, but now Justin just focuses on the games he plays, and rightfully so. I guess the argument before has always been, if you have these two genres of games at the same event, then there will be some, cross-pollination, and some of the anime players will be entering Capcom games and vice versa. But really, neither community is getting much help by that. So, I don't think that separating these, separating genres of venues is necessarily the answer, but I don't think it would make anyone worse off either.
Separate but equal.
I think it's appropriate that there was the sound of a water fountain in the background when we were talking about separate but equal. That's just messed.
Wow.
Hanzo was
This podcast is just that deep.
Magus, do you feel like it would really be that much of a big deal at this point if we segregated out and just said, hey, you know what, this is Marvel and Street Fighter, deal with it. This tournament is Blaze Blue and Persona, deal with it. Like, it basically, for the anime guys at least, that's already what they're kind of doing. Like, they have their events. I know here in NorCal, they have like NorCal Dogfights and NorCal Install, and those tournaments are just anime. And it's basically like the closest to a more mainstream game you get is KOF, and there's no Capcom. I think they've ran Marvel a few times, but they just are basically having their events and like, yo, deal with it. At this point, do you think it's going to hurt anybody to just kind of do that stuff?
It might not, but it's just like, something has to change because 3-day shit, that's not, it was a 9-day tourney for me because I got sick as fuck after it. And then, I have to work while I'm sick from shaking hands and playing on people's sticks and stuff. So it's like, I'm still recovering, and it's just like 3 days is too much, man. Like, and if you cut them, make them more concise, you could put more time into production. It's easier. Like, you could relax. Like, there's downtime and stuff. Like, that's the shit.
Well, we talk a lot. Go ahead.
If you take out, let's say, the anime games, which would be, a couple of communities, you're also going to decrease the registration numbers, which means that the tournament organizer is going to make less money. So
that's not my problem.
Right? No. It's basically none of our problems.
I don't care. I care less what he makes, but I'm coming from the perspective of somebody who just comes to play Marvel.
Right. I'm just explaining the incentive as a tournament organizer to have multiple games, or to have as many games as possible, so as to get people who are like, oh, well, like, I play KOF and I play Persona, so like, I'm in there. But maybe they wouldn't have been in there if there was only one or the other.
Well, speaking of as many games as possible, this week it was announced that NetherRealm Studios' Injustice is going to be joining the Evolution lineup in a move that shocked, I guess, about nobody. And it's going to be the 9th game at EVO. God, 9 games. Holy shit. Hanzo
9?
Yeah, there's 9. That's the 9th game.
There's 10.
10?
No, there's
No,
9. You're right.
It's
Sorry.
9. Injustice.
I was like, what the hell?
So, but I mean, like, I think I read online that this is the first time since like 2004, maybe, that they've had 9 games at EVO. Back when they still did like Super Turbo at EVO and stuff, and then there was like all the games that everybody was playing there, and like some of the anime stuff, like
Guilty Gear was there and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
and also EVO 2004. This was a tournament where each tournament would get like 80 to 100 entrants.
Yeah. 200 for CVS2, I think, around there.
Yeah, and the 200 is range for CVS2. I feel like Third Strike had around like maybe 150 that year.
And now we're dealing with games like Street Fighter 4 and Marvel pulling in over 2,000, 3,000 entrants at some of these.
3,000. I don't know. I thought it was like 1,000.
1,500.
Yeah.
And
Well,
maybe 2,000 for Street Fighter.
That's a lot, though. I mean, like
That's a lot, man. That's a party.
But anyway, Injustice on the docket now, which I think a lot of people were surprised that it was Mortal Kombat instead of. That's a lot of pizza, says Chris. I think a lot of people were surprised that it was Mortal Kombat 9 instead of Injustice, but it was really the scheduling of the tournament and the release of Injustice was kind of weird as far as like they had to announce the tournament's games before Injustice came out, and so I don't think anybody.
They announced Mortal Kombat before Mortal Kombat came out.
Well, that's true. I was about to bring that up, but
Exposed.
Yeah,
So-
but
They're just waiting for that cash, man. They're just holding strong, and then waiting for the the WB to come in.
yeah, but you have to assume like why would Mortal Kombat have been on there and not Injustice? Why did WB choose to support Mortal Kombat and not their new game?
Well, I don't know if they supported Mortal Kombat.
That's a good point. Hanzo, your thoughts on Injustice being at EVO?
I think the reason it was delayed is because, like, look at the games they announced before, like, if they were out. It was like Street Fighter X Tekken and Mortal Kombat, both of which probably performed way under what they expected. So they're probably like, hey, let's not make that mistake the third time. But Injustice at EVO is super good. I love the game right now. I'm trying to make my Grundy good. It just gives me another game to play, so I can CPM monster less.
Dude, I don't want to be that guy who it's like, how long has it been since the game came out? Like a month? But that game is so good, right? Like so good. I've been playing it nonstop.
No, I really enjoy it. It's like a million times better than Mortal Kombat. I think Mortal Kombat 9 is like the shittiest game in the world. Like, well, DOA is, but I mean, like next to DOA. But I really enjoy Injustice.
Gutex, do you think this is a good move on the part of EVO and NRS to push? Well, a good move on the part of NRS to push Injustice into the Evolution spot so quickly, or do you agree? Like, could they have just gotten away with having their own? Excuse me, I had to sneeze. Go ahead.
If Injustice was not included in the Evo lineup, I think everybody would have felt like there was something missing. So I mean, it sucks that we got to sit through Mortal Kombat. Well, I mean, I won't be sitting through it, but some people will. But I think it's good. Hopefully, something else doesn't get less spotlight. I don't know. Although there's so many, out of the 9 games, I mean, really, like, how many does any one person really care that much about, really? But I'm excited to see Injustice. I haven't played it, but looks cool, I guess.
Well, that's the thing. Like, why would they still support Mortal Kombat at this point? Like,
I have no idea.
Mortal Kombat players aren't even going to play.
Yeah, they can't. I think that maybe their registration numbers are low, so it's like maybe Mortal Kombat's not going to be like a huge commitment of time and resources, anyways. Maybe they won't even show it on the big on the stream on Sunday. Who knows?
I don't. It's baffling to me, but the game is going to be at EVO, I think a lot of people were more surprised that it wasn't going to be at Evo. So when they announced it, it was kind of like, okay, well, there we go. And I think that it's a good call. Hanzo seems to agree. Everybody seems to be in agreement that it's going to be a good call. We'll see how it goes. Magus, your final thoughts on Injustice at Evo?
I think my connection's gonna blow up. But, I mean, I don't. It's good for them. There you go.
I only said that because I knew he doesn't give a shit about it.
Yeah.
Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Master Race over here, dog.
No, I mean, I just I've gotten to the point where you stick around in the scene long enough, it's like you don't care about trying to help everybody out. Like you look out for your own shit.
I respect that. All right, well, that's going to be it for this week. Welcome back to the Fray. We'll be back next week, next Thursday, for another show. We record the Fray live every week at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and then we broadcast it to our YouTube channel. Usually gets uploaded on Friday. There is a guy, his name is Mike. He uploads our shows in MP3 format. You can find the thread on Shoryuken. Just Google Shoryuken, the Fray MP3s, and you'll be able to find it. We'll see about including the link to his thread and some of our future YouTube uploads. But he is nice enough to encode it into MP3 format for us, and then he uploads it from the goodness of his own heart. So thanks to Mike. Speaking of YouTube, I think that pretty much all the VOD for NCR is up at youtube.com/iplaywinner. So if you guys missed anything from NCR top 8s, you can catch that at our YouTube channel. And then also make sure you subscribe to YouTube channel because we've been rebroadcasting a lot of really good content this week. I know Chris Seglia has been experimenting with rebroadcasting some stuff via YouTube Live. Yeah, there you go. So we showed a lot of NCR. We also reshowed Aftershock this week. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/iplaywinner. And then also, of course, twitch.tv/iplaywinner. Make sure you subscribe there. I also want to make sure that you guys are... Gutex, what's your actual channel name on YouTube? It's youtube.com/cclive? What
Cross
is it?
Counter TV.
Cross Counter TV, that's right. So make sure you guys are subscribing to the YouTube channels for... Gutex, which you heard there, and also Hanzo Gonzo has youtube.com/thewastoflesh. So make sure that you are subscribed to him. He actually, for being like a black-hearted little goblin, he puts out some surprisingly insightful commentary and content on his YouTube channel. So
Goblin.
You little goblin. And then most of the off-stream matches that you guys missed should be on YouTube sometime this week. So make sure that you are subscribed. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. I just want to take a moment to say personally that I appreciated all the support you guys showed NCR. We broke 32,000 viewers, which is incredible. Last year we peaked out at almost 26,000. So we were at 25.8, I think it was last year. So we gained almost 8,000 viewers this year, which is incredible. Coming into 2013, a lot of the esports people were saying that we would never break 30,000, and we did it. SCR did it. So it's going to be a good year for us, but I want to personally thank you guys for viewing the stream and for all the support you offered us. I heard so many nice things from you guys about the production, about commentators. Thanks to all the guys who helped out with commentary this week. The guys who normally do TNT, Leo and SF Geef and Andy for doing a lot of Street Fighter 4 commentary. Our special guests, Hans and Combo Fiend and Seth Killian, Markman and Filthy Rich. And, just all the guys that put in the hard work at the production booth. Thank you, Vic. Thank you, Lewis. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Hanzo. Thank you, Harrison. You guys did an amazing job. But unless anybody has anything else, I'm going to set you free with Magus's final battle call. Make sure you guys tune in next week. And until then...
Yo, Fray!